Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Chris Adams, your host for Retro Life for You. And this week we are going to talk to you about Fast Times at Ridgemont High, looking back on the movie and all the people that were in it, not just the stars, because you'd be surprised how many people were in this movie that went on to be stars and win Oscars and everything. And going over this movie with us this week is a returning person to the show, her second time here, and very glad to have her. Lori Tucker. Lori.
Oh, so glad to be back.
Hey, I'm glad to have you back. Thanks for coming on. For those of y'all who may not remember, go back and check out our YouTube channel or in the archives of audio. Lori was on with us. She was in the Van Halen Hot for Teacher video, as well as some other videos. I believe there was, Rick James, Jermaine Jackson, Roger Waters.
Yep. And
Roger Waters, yeah. Yep, LA Guns.
Frampton.
Yep. I mean, been in some TV shows for a little bit here and there, little spots and everything. Did some commercials. I started to say Broadway, runaway shows.
My Broadway career.
You know, everybody just ignore me. When I get older, I'm sorry, I am older, and I think I am forgetting more and more every day. So
it's hard to remember.
Any recommendations on memory pills of any kind, the miracle memory pills, y'all just send my way. And
I'm just waiting to be reincarnated again, so I can have my hearing back, my sight.
But be careful, you don't know what you'll be reincarnated as.
That's true.
You could be a fly over a cow patty or something. That's not going to be cool at all because you don't want to hear and smell all that.
No. Yeah, trying to cut down. Yeah, I'm trying to cut down on that.
That's right. But I and also, what better person to talk about Fast Times at Ridgemont High than somebody who lives in California where you live? Now, I don't know. Now, you grew up in California, right?
Okay, yeah. I grew up in California, and Chris, I am a Valley girl. And
That's what I'm saying.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High was shot
come on.
at the Sherman Oaks Galleria, the famed Sherman Oaks Galleria from, Valley Girl. We were just talking about other movies that were shot there. Commando, Terminator 2, Inner Space, Back to the Future 2. It's the epicenter of 1980s mall life was the gallery. They had that shot was at Santa Monica Place, but all the interior was shot there, with all the original stores.
Right. Now, I thought I read somewhere at Sherman Oaks, the mall has closed down since then, hasn't it?
Well, it is not an indoor mall anymore. So they renovated it. So now it's like outdoor restaurants, some shops, and a huge movie theater. So it's really nothing like that mall.
So not really like it's shut down. It's just been reimagined, we'll say.
Right. Reconstructed. They did that a while back. My sister Kim worked there, through like around 87, I would say, on and through some, most of the 90s at Warner Brothers Animation there, which is in one of the office buildings at the mall. And that was when the mall was still open and thriving. And my brother Tommy, who has the Valley Relics Museum, had a kiosk in there. He had some skater clothing that he used to make, and he had a little kiosk in the gallery as well. So yeah, I spent a lot of time in there going to movies, playing in the arcade. Even though I wasn't a child, I still spent a lot of time in that arcade.
Who says you have to be a child to enjoy an arcade? I mean, come on, we get in there. We can waste our quarters just like they can.
That's right. And I know you and I've said before that, growing up is very highly overrated. So
that's right. I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid.
Me too.
I don't have a Toys. We don't have a Toys R Us anymore. But I mean,
I know.
We can still be a Toys R Us kid.
They just put some. I was in a Macy's. I think it's the Macy's. I was walking through, and there's a Toys R Us and toys and a little Jeffrey and everything. But it's, of course, not nearly the same.
I heard a rumor they might bring it back sometime, though.
Yeah.
Toys R Us. And that would be really cool if they did, I think. And why not? I mean, everything's right now. Retro's a hot thing. Everything's going around retro. Why not bring back a store? And what's more retro than Toys R Us? And kids would love it. I mean, I just face it. I mean, you don't get the same feeling going into Toys R Us as you do. Well, I'm saying it backwards. You don't get the same feeling walking into a Walmart or a Target and go into the toy department as you do going in the doors of a Toys R Us, which is nothing but toys from side to side, front and back.
Right.
It was a different feeling. So
yeah, that was
it wasn't quite a Spicoli feeling or anything, because I don't think Spicoli had any feeling going on at the time.
Okay, and I swear I didn't speak Valley talk. I swear.
That was not supposed to be Valley talk. That's supposed to be stoner talk.
Oh no, that's stoner talk. Yeah, that's surfer stoner talk.
Yeah, because he definitely had that surfer. He definitely did that stone surfer sound to him the whole movie. I don't even know if he was supposed to be stoned the whole movie or not, but they said the teacher that played Mr. Hand's character was supposed to wonder if all kids were stoned all the time.
Right. Yeah. Ray Walston. He was really perfect in that role. He was. Yeah. In rewatching it past few days, I didn't realize what a good job he did in that movie.
The movie, the role for that was originally offered to Fred Gwynne,
right,
which was Herman Munster, and he turned it down because he said it was a bit too vulgar for him, and with the sexual exploitations. But at the same time, if you're looking at it, I mean, that's the kind of movie that it is. It's like a Porky's. It's like an Animal House.
Right.
I guess the only real difference is I still laugh at Porky's today. I couldn't get. I mean, I don't even think I even got a giggle out of rewatching this. I mean, I rewatched it because I've seen it and I liked it, but I'm sitting there wondering to myself, I'm like, why did I laugh so much at this when it first came out? Like you said earlier, it's because I was a younger 14-year-old. I could probably relate to a lot of it.
Right.
And it was funnier at the time. It kind of reminds me of, I waited, well, I didn't really wait for it specifically, but this is completely off topic. I'm sorry, everybody, but I got to get it out there. But Kiss, they made a movie called Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park in 1977, 78, I think. It was on ABC.
Yeah.
And at the time, I watched it as a young kid. I'm like, this is awesome. Look at these guys. They do rock and roll. They got superpowers. They get paint on their face. Yeah. And then when they re-released this movie on VHS, and I went straight to the store and bought it. And I was excited. I put it in the VCR when I got home. Yes, VCRs were still around at that time. And I started watching it, and it's like, wow.
I feel like anything you watch or listen to through your puberty years, like 12 to 16, everything's so intense and your emotions are out there, and it's everything's like crazy, and all my favorite songs from that time and movies and everything, and then you rewatch it or even listen to some of the songs and you're like, I don't know.
I'm gonna say you're right. I'm gonna relate that to something different, because when you get older, your emotions tend to be a little bit stronger, right. And you watch a movie that has a sad scene in it. Or if you're a guy and your sports team does something really well and they win, you get overly excited. You hate to admit it, but your eyes start tearing up too easy. And you're like, this isn't right. Man, this isn't happening.
Chris, but, do you cry in the Hallmark commercials?
I do.
Okay. What's the word?
Don't tell nobody. All right.
Your secret's good.
I know you. Hold on. Did you say Hallmark movies?
Hallmark commercials.
No. I'm safe. I only watch Lifetime. Good. Never mind.
Okay.
Good. I don't watch that either for y'all listening, just so y'all know. But back to the movie. Okay. Fast Times at Ridgemont High, 1982.
Right.
Directed by Amy Heckerling.
Right. And her directorial debut.
She went on to make a few good movies after that, too.
Like Clueless, Look Who's Talking, and, written by Cameron Crowe, who of Jerry Maguire fame.
Yeah.
And I love that he has his, Nancy Wilson, his wife, in that little cameo in the car.
Right. And you know what? I didn't catch that. I never caught that. I don't know why I didn't. Even when I watched it again this week, I didn't catch it. And I'm looking through some trivia stuff, and they mentioned it. And I'm like, no. And to go back and look, I'm like, wow, it is. Look at that. How did I miss that?
Come on. A huge Heart fan that I noticed that right away.
I mean, I loved Heart when I was, I didn't pick up on Heart till the '80s. But to be
Yeah.
honest with you, I mean, so I don't know if they had a break between some of their albums or not. I went back and seen some of their other ones like Barracuda and Magic Man and all this stuff and everything,
Love
which was
Barracuda.
great stuff.
Yeah.
But when I picked back up on them, it was like These Dreams and
All their
oh,
80s stuff.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
their '80s stuff
It was
basically.
an
Is when I
MTV
really
stuff.
picked up on them. Exactly,
Right.
MTV. I started to say VH1, which wasn't a thing at the time. MTV Friday Night Videos.
Mhm.
You had a thing on TBS. It was some kind of rock blocks that they did from 9 to 11. I'd watch it every Friday as well. Um, yeah, it's crazy. I couldn't believe I missed that and everything. There's so, we'll touch on it a little bit more in a minute. There's so many names in there that you
Yeah.
probably recognized that, and some you may not have. Might not have caught them that went on to do more movies and do good stuff. And also, I think they got nominated for Oscars and things.
Yeah. Well, you have Eric Stoltz,
Eric
Nicolas
Stoltz.
Cage,
All
Nicolas
right.
Cage.
Since you mentioned Eric Stoltz, Sean Penn's two stoner buddies.
Right?
I didn't recognize either one of them at the time. Eric
Anthony
Stoltz.
Edwards. I was
Eric
looking at his
Stoltz.
face going, well, Eric Stoltz I recognize, but looking at Anthony Edwards' face,
Yes.
I was like, oh my God, I know who that is, but I don't know who it is. And then I looked and yeah, Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, Eric Stoltz. I was looking. I was like, that looks like Eric Stoltz.
Yeah.
And the other guy was like, and then I started looking at the credits. And I see Stoner Buddy Eric Stoltz. I'm like, well, that was right.
Right.
And then it says Stoner Buddy Anthony Edwards. Like, wait, you telling me Goose was in this?
Right.
Goose was a Stoner Buddy, or I mean, the
Yeah,
doctor
so
from
yeah,
ER.
too. God. And I have
Gosh.
to say, watching this, it's just Judge Reinhold, it looks like he's 30. I think just he's a tall dude, and he looks like he could have been a teacher or a teacher's assistant or one of the coaches or something, but he does not look like a teenager.
He didn't feel like a 17-year-old, and I'm sure he wasn't
No.
17 years old. I don't think he had the Ralph Macchio thing going on for him. He could play a much younger guy. And like you said, it just really threw that character off a bit. There were some other people offered the role or wanted the role. Matter of fact, Nicolas Cage wanted to read for the role, but they said that when he gave him a little bit of it, his stuff was just too dark and down for him.
Wow, go figure.
Go figure. Yeah, nothing's ever upbeat and bright about him. It doesn't seem like, and when he does, you get scared because it doesn't sound right.
Right.
You think the world's coming to an end.
Right. And I think Judge Reinhold does a great job. It's just, yeah, he doesn't fit in with the 15, because his sister's supposed to be the 15-year-old virgin, and it's like he looks like he's 32.
Right. And I don't know anybody at 17. I don't know. I didn't know anybody at 17 who was super happy to be working at the fast food restaurant, being over the fries or something. I mean, none of us at 17 really liked our jobs. Right. We wanted to be out having fun with our friends and everything. It's great we had money to run around with on our days off with our friends. But, and you start learning, of course, you look back on it, you're glad you did because you started learning some responsibilities and stuff and all these things. At the time, though, it's nothing you're really for. But he was just too over the top, enjoying his job.
Yeah.
And then the breakdown scene where he loses the job is still funny.
Yeah.
That is still great.
Definitely.
The customer wanting 100% satisfaction. He says, "Shut up, jerk! How about I 100% kick your butt?"
Yeah.
Oh, he was a little stronger with it. I'm trying to keep it family friendly here, so he was a little stronger with the words there. Manager comes out and asks him to do it and fires him, sends him on his way. His next job, he has to dress up like a pirate,
which is just perfect. Which reminds me of that. When I was watching Stranger Things and the kids working in that ice cream parlor with the whole gear on, it just reminded me exactly of Brad and Brad's job and Brad's uniform that he hates.
So the movie basically, like we mentioned earlier, it's one of those movies like a Porky's, like Animal House. You've got a young kid in there. It's I don't want to say coming of age, but a girl who is wanting to know what it's like to be older, have sex, and all this stuff. So one of her friends supposedly has an older boyfriend, which was questioned, really, I think. I don't think they ever really said she was lying, but they insinuate she's lying because she backtracks on some of her stories on him. Then she's trying to give this big to do how she's breaking up with him before graduation because he won't be there like she said he would for people to see. So
Right.
you pretty much think she's lying the whole time.
Yeah,
So
I think that comes across. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah.
So the 15-year-old girl is played by Jennifer Jason Leigh. She's wanting, she was 19 at the time, actually, for people wanting to know. She is the one that's so curious of everything and how the world goes around, what's it like with sex and everything, and how do you do this and how do you do that. So kind of a typical 80s type movie with teenagers. And it doesn't stop there. You go from there to, you got American Pie later on, basically the same thing. There's always going to be a movie like that.
Yeah, it's kind of, pitted as the quintessential coming of age movie, and it was for the time, but then as things change, and we end up with things like American Pie and some other movies that kind of surpass it and are more relevant. But interesting story. I was in a theater league when I was younger, out in Hollywood, and Jason Miller, who was Father Karras in The Exorcist, and he was a playwright also. He was a part of our theater league, and he would invite us sometimes when he would work onto the sets. So he was doing a TV movie called The Best Little Girl in the World, and Jennifer Jason Leigh was the star. She played an anorexic. So actually, before Fast Times was shot, got to go to the studio and be, a few of just very few people on set to watch her perform. And it was really, really interesting, And then I remember when and I thought she did such a good job then. Obviously, she was much younger because that was 1980, I believe. So, then when I saw her in Fast Times, I thought, oh yeah, that's the girl I got to watch. But yeah, she does a good job. I think she's just very natural acting, and she comes from an acting family, of course.
She does do well with it. I mean, it looked like it came natural to her, like you mentioned. When I hear Jennifer Jason Leigh, the first movie that comes to mind other than Fast Times is Single White Female.
Oh yeah.
And that's the one that really stands out in my mind because when I was older, that was a kind of a big thing at the time when it came out.
Right. Yeah, that was really good.
But some of these names that stand out here, these are just the ones that you see a lot in the movie. You got Judge Reinhold, of course. Mm-hmm. His sister in the movie, Jennifer Jason Leigh. Her friend is Phoebe Cates. You got Sean Penn, who is Spicoli the stoner. You've got Brian Backer, which is the guy who plays Rat.
Right.
Forget his actual name in the movie. And then Robert Romanus. I think that's how you say his name, Romanus.
Yeah, Romanus. Mike Damone.
Yeah, Mike Damone, exactly.
Ticket scalper / who also looks funny.
Ticket scalper for sure. Yes, he is. Would you call me a scalper? I provide a service here for people, okay? That's a service that people need.
Yeah, and I love it. The first tickets that he's scalping are Van Halen.
Right, exactly. Another good reason to bring you on here to talk about it. Another good reason.
Well, of course I caught on to that. But then also in the end, when they're doing the kind of like what happened to people, with Spicoli, it's said that he rescued Brooke Shields from drowning, mm-hmm. and then he put his reward money on hiring Van Halen for his birthday party.
Right.
I was like,
that was great. That was great. And there was another little thing someone pointed out that he's, Van Halen's mentioned in it that a couple of times for tickets and playing his birthday party. Just several, I don't want to say several years later, it's been quite a few years later. Somebody who has a song on the soundtrack ended up replacing David Lee Roth and Van Halen. So we have a Sammy Hagar song on the soundtrack.
Sammy Hagar on there, which is I noticed that years ago. It's like, wow, I didn't even realize Sammy was on that.
All kinds of things come around. Forrest Whitaker had a part in the movie where he's playing a football player. Driving this great car, the Z28 Camaro at the time. Mm-hmm. And the humor of that was funny. Spicoli is driving this car with Whitaker's brother in the passenger seat. They're both smoking pot in the car. They're both, I wouldn't say they're both stoned or anything, but I mean, they're driving down the road and Spicoli's driving crazy in the car. He's like, man, it's my brother's car, right? He said, yeah, well, you said he wouldn't mind, right? He goes, well, don't wreck it or hurt it or anything. He'll have a heart attack or something, and ends up crashing the car. So
and
they
you knew something bad was going to happen. The minute the kid said, "My brother's car don't wreck," you just knew something bad. It reminds me of Ferris Bueller's Day Off with his friend in his dad's car, and like I remember that scene. They're trying to run the meter back, the mileage, and I remember it shot off the thing and flew out. And I mean, my body just wanted to catch that car because I love the car so much. I could have been there and caught that car. I could have saved it. But yeah.
Well, and then he tells me, he says, "Don't worry, man, I can fix it." And he goes, "You can't fix this car, man." He goes, "No." He looks out the window, looks at it, and says, "I can fix it." So the next scene you see where he fixes it is where it's out in front of the school with spray paint all over it from the opposing school, where they had supposedly taken his car and wrecked it and vandalized it and everything, talking about how he sucked and the school sucked and everything. And I thought, well, that was ingenious.
That was great. Yeah. Just all these little nuances that you see when you rewatch it too.
Yeah.
That you missed.
And then the start of the movie when they first started out, I mean, that was kind of a typical start of the school kind of week, school day, first day back to school and everything or whatever. Music's playing, American Girl. You got Jennifer Jason Leigh walking through the halls. It's showing your little nerdy boys looking at the girls and everything, trying to catch a peek or whatever they can. And I guess one girl is bending over to the locker, and the kid turns and keeps looking, then turns back around and walks straight into the door of the office where somebody had opened it up, and he walks right square into it.
Yeah.
Some kids fighting with his stuff in his locker. I don't remember if it was
Ratner. It was Ratner.
Was it Rat? Okay,
Ratner. It looks like gum.
Yes, like there's like 10 years worth of gum that's been chewed and stuck in his locker.
That's our introduction to him.
Right, exactly. I mean,
you're like, okay.
No, it's like crazy first day back. You got Judge Reinhold pulling in his car, his fancy Buick LeSabre. He's coming in. He's pointing at everybody. He's Mr. Popular, I guess, and it's his idea to break up with his girlfriend because it's their last year, and they owe it to themselves to be with other people and experience things and stuff. And then he gets talking to him, he gets fired from the job, and he's talking to his girlfriend, the supposed pep rally that nobody has any pep in whatsoever.
Right, except that one girl.
Except Kelly Maroney, who's out there trying to tell people like this is how they should act and everything. And she breaks up with him with the same speech at the pep rally.
That is
the same speech that he had been rehearsing to himself.
Yeah, and because I love that scene where he's rehearsing in the mirror, and you're like, "Oh, you rat!" You dirty dog, you're gonna break up with him. And then she
right
does
back
that, and it's perfect.
Yeah.
I want friends. I want to be friends. And he's like, "Okay." Yeah. The look on his face is really good. Yeah, it's really perfect.
Yeah, it was like he's like, "Beat me to it." All right. Let's see. Well, then you got kind of like the story, like you want Ratner to end up with Jennifer Jason Leigh in a way. He's the at least if you're the guy who might have felt like you were the quiet nerdy one in school or something,
right? Who
wants the guy to get the girl and everything. So you're like you're wanting him to end up getting the girl and all that, and he gets there and he's got the situation where he's there. It's a home run for him all the way, and he freaks out. And he just, it's it. He's got to go. His sister wants the car back. He's got to get back.
Right.
And that's it. But at the same time, though, they make Jennifer Jason Leigh's character look really bad in the process. I mean, she's been with somebody like once already. Now they make her look like she'll put it out there for anybody.
Like literally almost seems like the next day she's doing that, and then the next day she's with
right. Right. They make it look like she is just sex starved and will be with anybody she can, and makes her look like she's easy or something. And so it kind of, in a sense, it kind of makes her look bad. I get it if the movie's about wanting her character to know what it's like and everything, and she does find out. Right. Lies about her age to get with an older guy and everything, and all the good stuff. But now, I have
to say, in rewatching it too, I didn't remember it like that. Her character,
right?
And as it was going, I was like, oh yeah, she's really,
I didn't remember that either.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I remember about the movie, because it's been talked about so many times, is Phoebe Cates coming up out of the pool.
Right.
And that was and I'd forgotten that it really, all it was Judge Reinhold picturing in his mind her, and we won't go far into what he was doing.
He doesn't really do it.
Right. So And he's like, doesn't anybody knock anymore?
I
You
know. I
know,
feel, you feel kind of you feel for him on that one. It's kind of
yeah,
a
yeah,
yeah,
he's in an embarrassing
kind of a what about
situation, we'll
Mary,
say.
kind of a what about Mary situation. But
Oh my gosh.
yeah, probably most guys' favorite scene in the movie, and probably when they're 14, 15, 16, and probably still their favorite scene in the movie.
I'd say for guys, the favorite scene in the movie is
Yeah,
Phoebe Cates coming up out of the pool
absolutely.
and then walking up to Judge Reinhold's
Yeah,
character, and then that being that. So I mean, it's
right.
but at the same time, we could appreciate the rest of the movie still. I mean,
Sure. Yes,
Sp-
absolutely.
Spicoli's talked about quite a lot. He's humorous. I mean, he's
He,
not outrageously funny, but I mean, he does things to test the teacher so much. He comes in late. He's
yeah,
not really smart with him, but he's just like like I don't care kind of attitude with him. Like
right.
I just couldn't be here on time, you know. Couldn't
He's
do
really
it.
a comedy relief in this movie. Like
Yeah.
every few scenes, he's just doing it. And I also in watching that again, I really, really being here in California, being around surfers and stoners a lot, watching his performance, he actually does an amazing job. I mean, he's so subtle and low key about it, and so his concentration and character study on that was just so perfect, because look, he goes on to win Academy Awards and writes and directs and everything. But I just thought some of my favorite scenes are Spicoli scenes.
Yeah, there's a tidbit about Sean Penn on IMDb when you look at their trivia section where he
Mhm.
talks about how during the times where he was recording scenes, he didn't want anybody who was not movie related to be on the set.
Okay.
And I don't understand why that would be or anything, what the big deal is, but that was one of his requests. Nobody who is not movie related or needed can be on the set.
Yeah.
Well, somebody completely ignores that one day and brings two people on to walk him around and show him things, but keeps
Right.
them way, way clear of him.
Right.
He never sees them. But
Right.
he walks up to that guy after they leave. Somehow he goes, "There's people here." He goes, "Well, yeah, but you never seen them. I didn't think you would know." He goes, "I could feel them." And
You
it was
know,
just that. It's like he was serious. That was it.
some people, some actors and actresses I've heard really, a lot of these people that are really good actors and actresses, they're kind of shy sometimes. And a lot of them are introverted, even if their characters aren't. So a lot of
Yeah.
them really need that quiet space and to concentrate and, get into their character. And it's not sometimes so much of like, I don't want anybody here and being, persnickety about that. It's, I've known people like that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and the teacher, Mr. Hand, like I said, he's always trying to get at him, and he orders
Oh, yeah.
pizza to come into the class, and he says,
That's
"Mr.
gotta be one of
Spicoli,
the scenes
Mr.
too.
Spicoli, what are you doing?" He says, "Taking in some U.S. history and eating some food."
He goes, and I
You
thought
know,
about it. Yeah, he goes, you're here, we're here, so
yeah, it's not just your time, isn't it? Like our time,
right,
our
exactly.
time together. So I
And
thought it
then
was
I love
funny.
the teacher shares the pizza,
Yes,
and it
that
reminds
was.
me of it's that scene reminds me later in Clueless, which
Mhm.
Amy Heckerling, wrote, where she gets flowers delivered to herself,
Yeah,
from as if they're from somebody, but they're not. And that kind of
right.
reminds me of the whole pizza scene, you know.
And then he gives everybody a slice of he calls four people up there to get a slice of the pizza because he's just like
Looks like he's gonna cry.
he's like it's my pizza, you know.
Pizza,
Um,
dude. My pizza.
Amy Herculing says that Sean Penn and his pals were actually smoking marijuana in the van as he exited for the prom. As they were coming out, I guess it was not a fog machine; it was an actual Cheech and Chong moment
Oh my god,
of
that's
getting in there.
great. And speaking of
Um,
the van, um, as you know, my brother Tommy, who has the Valley Relics Museum, and it's a pop culture museum that collects all kinds of things from the valleys, from neons to movie set stuff, BMX bikes that were produced in the valley, music memorabilia, all that stuff. He was lent from Skinner Classics the actual original Fast Times at Ridgemont High Spicoli van. And it's all exactly how it was. And so it's on loan to him. So he has it at his museum right now. And it's such a kick to go in and look at it. It's really one of the most popular things in the museum right now. And in the back, they have a little picture of some of the characters, the movie characters.
Yeah.
As if they're sitting in the van.
Yeah, but, and I agree with what I read on it too about when he first got it. Not your brother, but Skinner, who had the auto body shop. He had said that when he bought it from the guy who had it, he talked him into selling it to him at a would be a substantial loss to him. But he said that vehicle needs to stay in California. It's iconic to California, iconic to the movie. It's just something that needs to stay here.
Yes.
And he talked him into the deal, which I thought was cool. So
that's great.
There should be more like that, there should be more things like that for little, like pop culture museums. That would be a great thing. I wish we had one here. I'm not but 30 minutes from Nashville. That'd be something cool for Nashville to have.
Very cool.
And there's plenty of things that's happened down here in movies that are, designated for down here, TV shows or movies that they could put in a pop culture museum that's related down here. I mean, anything from, if you could get the world to get over it, a General Lee car from Dukes of Hazzard to anything from
well, I know in Nashville at the Country Western Museum they have Nudie Cohen, who was the did like Elvis's Gold LeMay outfit and White Yoakum stuff. Like he was like the seamstress. That's not the right word because he's a man, but he dressed all the cowboys and all the Western singers and a lot of those people. So my brother had a couple of his cars. He still has one, and they shipped it off to the museum there. So it's in Nashville, but I'm sure in Nashville, my brother has the neons from places here, especially a lot of music venues. I'm sure Nashville, if any of those things that have, gone out of business they have the signs left. I'm sure you could have signs from those. You could have music memorabilia. You could have, like you said, the movie stuff. Because, I mean,
part of the Green Mile was filmed here. They could take things from the Green Mile and put there.
Yeah.
There are plenty of things. There's plenty of places here actually with memorabilia and stuff for country western and stuff. Johnny Cash has a place here. Country Music Hall of Fame is here. In the Johnny Cash Museum, it's got stuff that he had worn in the past, as far as things that Elvis had worn, Carl Perkins had worn, this old battered flag he had in his video from the reading of that he did with that and everything. And so there's a lot of cool things there in that place, and you can find others as well. But when it comes to like pop culture, just pop culture in general, I mean, I'm thinking TV shows and movies that have been based on here somewhere in the South or something.
Yeah, and stuff just more eclectic, Yeah,
that you may not see everywhere. That would be kind of cool though. Kelly Maroney, I mentioned her earlier, played one of the cheerleaders in here. She is also a cheerleader in Night of the Comet.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
She was the sister to Catherine Mary Stewart. Played together in that movie. There are the only two girls left that I can say for sure that they showed in the movie, except one of the scientists or something.
Right.
She went on to do some other things as well. She wasn't quite as successful as like your Judge Reinhold or Sean Penn or Jennifer Jason Leigh, but she went on and did like Chopping Mall and Night of the Comet and a few other horror type movies and everything. Forrest Whitaker has been in so many things.
Oh, wow.
And done so well for himself. Brian Becker was one of the typecast kind of people.
Mm-hmm.
He only got certain roles based on how he was portrayed, and he was like in Police Academy 4, I believe, was one of the skaters. Of course, this movie here and a couple others. There's also another Police Academy person in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He plays one of the two cadets in the first movie that Commandant, no, not Lassard. Whoever the guy's name is over the cadets trying to break them in. He has Proctor as his side guy, and two cadets he picks out personally to monitor everything. And one of those two cadets is from Fast Times at Ridgemont High as well. I want to throw just a few names out here since we brought this up earlier. Nicolas Cage as a scene where he's behind the counter. Yes. He was only 17 at the time, so he couldn't really do much for filming. But it was his first paid job that he did.
Right.
We mentioned Anthony Edwards. We mentioned
Right.
Anthony Edwards, not to get confused with the other one. Anthony
Right.
Edwards and Eric Stoltz.
Right.
Trying to find where this list. It's on this page I'm looking at here. They had quite a few names that were on there.
I mean, when you think about it, a lot of really good actors came out of that movie.
They did, and things. So many different things, even the ones you didn't even notice. Like I said, we didn't notice Anthony Edwards at first. He went on to be very successful. He did Revenge of the Nerds. He did Top Gun. He was in ER for years.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just the kind of people. Here are some of the actors who actually auditioned for the roles. You had Ralph Macchio, who was going to be offered a role, but he demanded a salary too much. They said they couldn't afford him.
Okay.
Matthew Broderick. They kind of wanted Matthew Broderick for Judge Reinhold's role.
Yeah.
They thought he'd be good for that.
He'd have been spectacular for that, definitely.
Meg Tilly, Michelle Pfeiffer, Lori Loughlin, Elizabeth Shue, Kelly Preston, Rosanna Arquette, Carrie Fisher, Ali Sheedy, and D.B. Sweeney were some of the names that had, actually wanted to be in it, but didn't quite make the cut.
Yeah, and they all would have been great.
Yeah. Mike Damone is a band named after him, a rock band.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a rock band called Damone.
Okay.
It's funny when Mike Damone gives Rat his 5-point plan.
Yeah.
He says, and number 5, now this is the most important, Rat, when it comes down to making out, whenever possible, put on side 1 of Led Zeppelin 4.
Yeah.
However, the soundtrack plays Kashmir, which is not on Led Zeppelin 4. It's on Physical Graffiti. So they don't know for sure if it was just a part of Rat being what he was, unsure of himself and messing up again, or if it's because, and this was a sure thing, the producers couldn't get the rights to use the music.
Right.
So, they didn't have much of a chance on that. Judge Reinhold was actually the boyfriend of Amy Heckerland's best friend when he got the role for that movie.
Okay.
I'm sure that might have some insight for us on why.
How old was Judge Reinhold when he did that? I'm curious to know. I don't know.
I am curious too. Hold on, I'll tell you. Because if we look up Mr. Judge Reinhold, he was born in 1957.
Oh, wow. Okay. So he was like 22 or something?
He was 20-something for sure. I see 82.
I was 25.
6. He was, yeah, he was 25. Okay. So he also went on after this movie to play with somebody else from Fast Times in Beverly Hills Cop. I think it's the guy that robbed the store at the end of it. When he was being held up, when he had the Mighty Mart job.
Yeah, when Spicoli uses his pennies to pay for everything.
Yes.
It's like that's when Spicoli says that,
Oh my gosh.
Need some sweet waves, tasty waves, cool buzz.
Yes.
I'm
yes. Fine. My gosh. Let's find something else good for this here. Of course, there's a part where it talks about the Fast Times bus owned by Robert Skinner. That's when I first saw it earlier. There was a very interesting thing in the credits. If you'll notice in the credits, and also she was in the movie, but Lana Clarkson was in the movie. She's introduced as that teacher's hot wife or something. The one that was
yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Yeah. He comes up with the hot wife.
Yeah, so you got that guy, and he's got her as his wife. She appears as Miss Vargas. Winter Wonderland appears in the film courtesy of Phil Spector. International. Spector would murder Clarkson in 2003. Do you remember this?
Is that for real?
Yeah, you don't remember this being in the news? Phil Spector. I totally
remember, but I didn't realize it was her.
Yeah. Clarkson. And so it says at the time, 20 years before the crime even happened, you got the names of the two people, the victim and the murderer, in the credits of a movie together.
Oh, wow.
It's not like it's something like it was pre-planned, but I mean, it's just creepy and freaky that it's there.
That is
You
really,
know,
really freaky.
it's crazy the things you can come back to and see,
Yeah,
and
pay attention.
all right, because you're like, I would never would have caught that, without reading about it or anything.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks was considered for the role of Brad.
Yeah, I remember hearing that.
Tom Hanks would have. I don't know how old he was at the time. He's probably
Yeah,
about the same age.
probably around the same age, I think.
But he went on in '84 to do Bachelor Party, of course, which was
Right.
kind of a raunchy kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Tawny.
says both Brooke Shields and and Ellen Barkin reportedly turned down an offer to play Stacy. At the end of the film, the credits state that Jessica Cody rescued Brooke Shields from drowning. Of course, we talked about that.
Yeah.
And he blows all his money. Gosh, the only thing that would have been better was if they had a band in there at the time when it happened.
Yeah.
That would have been better. That'd been great just to show them at the time, and like have a flashback to his party with them playing.
Yeah, with
something.
Van Halen playing another Eddie Van Halen backyard bash.
Right.
That would have been great.
This is Matthew Broderick turned down the role of Brad Hamilton when his father became terminally ill. The girl from Family Ties, Justine Bateman, turned down the role of playing Stacy because she wanted to do Family Ties.
Okay.
That was already successful. I guess she didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
Talks about Phoebe Cates, how her character Linda likes older men. She'd later go on to marry Kevin Kline, 15 years older than her.
Right.
Jodie Foster was considered to play Stacy, but she was uninterested in the role due to her commitment to Yale.
Yes.
I'd rather stay in school. School is cool.
That's right. And she went on to,
Yeah. Well, Jodie Foster had some
powerhouse.
She did well for herself.
You sure did.
Can't deny. My favorite movie she's in is Maverick. I know it wasn't exactly her starring role, but I mean, I liked Maverick, the movie, and I thought her character was great in it. I loved it. Diane Lane auditioned for the role of Stacy. Ralph Macchio was asked for a role, but demanded too much money, like I said, for his salary. Okay. When Ratner is getting, I thought this was kind of a cool throwback for another movie. When Ratner is getting dating advice from Damone in Damone's bedroom, Ratner is wearing a T-shirt for the movie Popeye in 1980, which starred Ray Walston, who played Popeye Sr. and then Mr. Hand. It didn't stick with me that he was Popeye Sr. I remember he was in My Favorite Martian, I believe it was, but not that. That flew completely over my head.
Yeah, me too.
Damone's car is a 73 AMC Gremlin, which probably was considered cool at the time. I think people made fun of him a lot later on, though.
Yeah.
The three cars I see here made fun of the most was a Studebaker, a Gremlin, and a Pacer.
And then there was that. Well, I remember I came home from Europe and I had to use. I had a lot of brothers, and in our backyard was several different motorcycles and several different vehicles in different stages of wellness, mechanical need. And I'm like, hey, Dad, which car can I use? And I was using the Pinto. The Pinto. That was a
Pinto. Yes, the Pinto.
Yeah,
I completely forgot about that car. It looked like an egg, like you were driving a big egg on wheels.
And he's like, oh, it's running fine. And I get in there and I had to he goes, all you have to do is put 2 quarts of oil in it every so many miles.
Right. It's not fine. It's burning oil, for crying out loud.
I literally had to stop and go in somewhere and then put oil in the car. Yeah. But
if you wanted to keep going, you did. That's for sure. I thought it was funny. Mr. Hand shows up at Spicoli's house.
Yes.
Mr. Spicoli, I've calculated here roughly, and believe me, this is a generous number, that you've taken up about 8 hours of my time this year, and I intend on getting it all back. So it looks like instead of going to this prom or whatever, he's going to spend the evening talking. But he looked like he enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, I think
it didn't bother him at all.
Yeah, he was butthurt at first, though, like, oh, what are you doing? And then by the end, he comes out with, kind of giving his take on something that, Mr. Hand was teaching him. And then you see him later, he ends up at that party anyway.
Right. And then he tells him, he says, he assumes the teacher's going to pass him and send him on his way. Right. He says, there's no guarantee you're going to pass my class.
Right.
Although I'd be willing to believe he probably passed him just to not have him in there again with him.
Yes.
Again, but that was crazy. So the movie, it's kind of comes like full circle at this moment now. He had we've got the part with the girl who's curious. She gets with the guy. She knows what it's like. She ends up getting with Mike Damone. We forgot to bring this up, which is Rat's friend. Rat's going to him for advice on what to do, and he ends up being with her in not such a not stellar fashion for him.
No.
And she ends up getting pregnant from it. Of course, she lied to him. She told him he was the only guy. Mm-hmm. She was not the only guy.
Nope.
But he was really being dirty and playing it off like he didn't want nothing to do with it. Like, you wanted it, I didn't. All this stuff. And he agrees.
When she goes to the clinic and
his agreement for it ultimately was to pay for half and drive her there.
Right.
That's all he had to do.
Yeah. They show him on the phone talking, trying to collect all the debts of people that owe him money. You know?
Yeah. So he gets no money for it. He tries to avoid her as much as he can. The girl, her friend Linda's mad and writes something on his little locker for him.
Yeah.
He covers it for the world not to see. It's crazy. But you get this kind of coming full circle now. That's gone by. Rat gets mad at Damone. They have their little argument going. They about get into a fight. They kind of somewhat make up later on. Damone's apologizing and everything, and Rat's like, you can't help it. You've always been this kind of way. You're overbearing. You're mean. You're stupid or whatever. So I guess they're buddy again. But the nerd, the Rat,
forgives the girl,
and gets the girl in the end anyway. And it's funny. They're giving you they've been together for, I forget how many weeks they threw out there now. I didn't write it down, but so many weeks. And it was a good number of weeks they've been together.
And they still hadn't consummated their relationship. Right. I guess that's what got him the girl in the first place. It probably served him well to not be,
Yeah, because she tells her friend Linda that she just wants that she's experienced what it was like to have sex. Right. She just wants to know what it's like to have a real relationship because she thinks Linda's had this real relationship all this time. Right. And it's been good for her, supposedly. So she wants that. Right. She wants a big relationship. So that's what she's going for. So he gets the girl in the end with that. And of course, we know what Spicoli did. And I'm sure Mr. Hand finds another stoner the next year to pick on.
Yeah. Because it says that he just thinks everybody's high. Every student.
Yeah, every student is high. I don't remember what happened with the brother though. Judge Reinhold's character, does it say what happened with him?
Yeah, it does, but I can't remember. Oh.
I just watched it yesterday. I didn't think I had to write this down,
And I made notes about different things, but I just completely.
See, people, I told you before. I'm 49 years old. I can't remember. I got CRS. Okay. To be nice about it, can't remember stuff.
And I don't know what my excuse is because I'm much younger than you, Chris.
I know. You're like 26. I mean.
I'm like 26. I'm like,
how old were you when you were in that video again?
10.
If you're 26 now?
I was 10. Well, actually, I'm 26. I was 27 last year, so I'm regressing each birthday now. I'll be 25 next year again. So.
I thought you were going maybe reverse in time or something.
That's exactly what's happening.
I don't know. I was always, or my father was always holding at 35 and holding.
There you go.
I tell everybody that I'm celebrating the 25th anniversary.
That's it.
No. I'm sorry. Hold on. This year, this upcoming May, I will turn 50. But I will tell everybody I'm celebrating the 25th anniversary of my 25th birthday party.
There you go. Yes.
And it sounds like you're younger, and you kind of feel, you don't feel like you're younger at all. You still feel like you're about to die. But you, in your mind, you're younger.
Yeah.
So one of these days, you're going to catch back up in age to me. I understand you're 26,
I'll
27
go backwards.
now.
You'll keep coming up, and we're just
bam, there it is.
It's really funny because I never really cared about my age when I was younger or whatever. I always looked older when I was younger anyway, and then hung out with a little bit older people. But I remember when I turned 25, all of a sudden that hit me like a ton of bricks. 25, it's a child. It's nothing. Why did I even care?
Why exactly? Why is it a big deal with girls when 25 comes? Why is it the end of your life when you hit 30?
Because
I work with quite a few of girls who had not quite reached 25 yet. You know, working at Wally World. I work at Walmart, so working at
Right.
Walmart, you have quite a few younger
Wally
people that
World.
are there. Wally World, quite a few younger people there, and they were like, oh, "God, I'm gonna be 25 this year," and they look at me, they look at me and go, "How do you do it?"
I know,
And
like
I'm
my
like, "How do you
life's
do
over.
what? How do you do what? How do you be older like that?" And I was like, "You know, shut up."
Oh my God.
Go find you a cash register to stand at or something, you little twerp. I don't want to talk to you.
Go find something to do.
Yeah, go out
But
there and run. Go out there
yeah.
and run up the flagpole or something. Leave me
Oh,
alone.
see how it flies.
Yeah.
I remember I was at a comedy club, the Comedy Store in Hollywood, and we were watching this one woman comedian, and she was saying, "Anybody have a birthday out there?" And I stupidly raised my hand.
Uh-oh.
Anyway, first she asked me how old I was, and I remember saying 25, and I was so embarrassed. I'm like, "Oh my God, I like stuck into my chair."
You've let the world know you're an old spinster now. Oh my gosh.
I know. And then she went on to completely make fun of me anyway, because I raised
Well, you
my
raised your
hand at a
hand.
Comedy Store.
You singled yourself. The one thing you don't, two things you don't do. You don't sit in the front row,
Right.
and you don't raise your hand. And the third thing is you don't heckle them.
Oh yeah.
Unless you are really good.
The rules. Yeah, unless you're another comedian that's very, very seasoned at heckling back.
Yes.
But
Yes, that will get you in a heartbeat. So that's basically covering the movie and all. I want to look at a couple more things on here. What they do it for the trivia type stuff though. Just as the movie is ending, the credits you see a close up of our arcade video game screen that says "The End" on it. That's the game was Missile Command. Talk about a flashback, 1980 Missile Command, produced by Atari.
Oh
People
wow.
like, what? Where was Nintendo? Shut up. We didn't have
There was
Nintendo. We weren't cool enough for Nintendo then. Okay, we had Atari,
I remember Pong.
Pong,
That
we
was
had Jaguars.
the thing,
I mean, Pac-Man. When Pac-Man came out, we lost our minds.
Oh, that was. Yeah.
They even made a song about it. Go look it up.
Right? It's
Pac-Man Fever.
Pac-Man T-shirt. It's still a lot of people's favorite arcade game. And I mean, even younger people that play, you know, my brother Tommy's got the retro arcades in his museum, and everybody's fighting to play Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man.
Pac-Man, Galaga, Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all about those. It's crazy.
I have to tell you, I was at Dave and Buster's a couple weeks ago. Actually, I went for my birthday. I went axe throwing and then Dave and Buster's. And I was playing Pac-Man Jr.
Yeah.
That game gave me a heart attack. That is so hard. Do you remember playing Pac-Man Jr.?
I remember all Pac-Man. Super Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, Pac-Man
Jr.
The
screen doesn't end. And then you don't get any more energy balls to eat. It's like,
just on your own. Good luck.
It's really right.
You're the junior. You run faster now. You're junior.
Yeah.
Jeez. There's a guy we had on the show with us a little while back when Travis was here in the first season, and he has a retro Airbnb, an 80s style Airbnb.
Oh, fun.
And this is in North Carolina, so the rooms are set up like 80s style rooms with themes to them. Every console game available up to the first PlayStation is in the room. You can hook up anything you want to and play to the TV. And he has a retro arcade of all retro games from 77 to 84, I think it is.
Wow.
A ton of games you probably never even heard of that we know existed, plus all the popular ones.
Right.
And his arcade is called Wieners and Losers because they serve their hot dogs and chips and drink for us at a snack bar.
I love
They call it Wieners and Losers. It's great. Yeah. Scott's his name. I can't think of his last name. Scott, if you're listening, I'm sorry, but I can't remember your last name off the top of my head. I've talked to him once. He's good, really good guy though. Great business to have.
I love that. That would be such a fun thing to do.
Phoebe Cates and Judge Reinhold would later go on together to star in Gremlins, 1984.
That's right. That's right.
So they did some things.
It's
I
like
really want to. I really wanted to find the one where they talk about where they have the Oscars, the people who went on the Oscars. I do know Jennifer Jason Leigh got nominated for an Oscar.
Yes,
That was in actually for Best Supporting Actress in Quentin Tarantino's Hateful Eight.
Okay.
I think that's what it was. Yeah, because Kurt Russell was the sheriff, I guess, in it.
Okay.
James Russo was the guy I couldn't think of earlier. Judge Reinhold and James Russo going to Beverly Hills Cop in '84. Oh, it was Cameron Crowe's parents that visited the set.
Oh, his parents.
Yes, that's who he brought in. So then Penn didn't, he didn't know. He couldn't see them, but he's like, but he felt them there. That's how he knew they were there.
Princess and the Pea much?
Yeah. Did you know Pamela Springsteen was in the movie?
No.
Bruce Springsteen's sister. They tell you, they kind of mention it twice. They talk about when he's cleaning his Buick Skylark, he's got that Bruce Springsteen sticker on it, bumper sticker, and he's also wearing a T-shirt in the Mighty Mart scene. She's the other cheerleader.
Okay.
Yeah, she's the other cheerleader.
Okay.
I'm
gonna have to watch it again.
Just to go back and see that, because you don't realize these things are going on.
Yeah.
They made a big deal of vans on this. That's what Sean Penn's character Spicoli was about. Christopher Reeve was considered for the role of Jess Spicoli. I don't know about that.
No.
When I think Christopher Reeve, all I think of is Superman.
Oh yeah.
Unless I'm missing something. I don't know.
That would not have flown, I don't think.
I don't know. Melanie Griffith and Tatum O'Neal were considered for the role of Linda.
Okay.
This movie was number 2 all time for high school movies? Somewhere in there.
And they shot it in a couple of different San Fernando Valley school locations as well. I know.
Right.
Canoga
and the mall,
High, which I used to live down the street from, and I think Chatsworth High.
And they said the mall they filmed in, they filmed all after hours. 9 or 9:30 when it closed until because
that was a pretty packed, popular mall. That place was packed all the time.
Right.
Yeah, and I loved it. Like she worked at Perry's Pizza. That was a real place. That was. Really
she actually worked there for a month before it filmed.
Yeah, right. That's what I saw that she just to get the feel of it. And they had Florsheim shoes, Kenny shoes, Swiss jewelers, and Licorice Pizza, which was music store, vinyls and music store, and
What was it called again? You said the vinyl store?
Oh, Licorice Pizza.
Licorice Pizza was the name of the store.
Yeah, so they just made a movie called Licorice Pizza. Well, Licorice Pizzas were music stores out here.
I did not know that.
A little bit like later, they turned into just like vinyl stores where you can go and get vinyl still.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to record stores, I remember like Tower Records and Cats, but I don't remember anything like.
We have the Warehouse, Tower Records, Ear Candy, Licorice Pizza. Things like Ear Candy and Licorice Pizza were like the smaller little stores,
more local.
But at one time, it was in the Galleria, and they show that in there.
I got you. Well, I cannot find, for whatever reason, the parts about the people that went on to get the Oscars and such, but we can throw out some names. I mean, Nicolas Cage, for one, being in there. Yeah. We know that Sean Penn went on with great things. Judge Reinhold has done great things. Jennifer Jason Leigh was nominated as a Best Supporting Actress. Forrest Whitaker's done great work in his time. He got an Oscar, I believe.
He's been nominated for sure, and I know Sean Penn. I think he won. Correct?
I believe Sean Penn won. Yes. So I mean, the amount of talent they've had in some of these early '80s movies, people don't understand. It's just like when you look at Outsiders. Some of the Outsiders people, you really focus on Ralph Macchio and C. Thomas Howell. Those are two you focus on. Then you got the older brother to C. Thomas Howell is Rob Lowe and Patrick Swayze. But then their friends were Emilio Estevez and Matt Dillon and Tom Cruise. And you're like, all these names in that movie.
That is such during COVID, I, forced my daughters to watch all these 80s movies with me. Yeah. And, we watched that and they loved that movie. They loved that movie. And
it's
in rewatching that, having not seen that in so many years, I was stunned in seeing and remembering how many great actors there were in that.
yes,
Huh?
it's great. It is a great film. I'm trying my best. I'd really like to get Danny Boy O'Connor. He bought the house that they filmed that they lived in, and
Yeah,
he
he's a
opened
friend of
a
my brother
museum.
Thomas. He's a friend of my brother's, and Danny Boy just donated a lot of Fast Times at Ridgemont High memorabilia that he had. So there's a number of other things besides the band that my brother does own. That Danny
See,
Boy.
I didn't know that guy had stuff from Fast Times. I knew that he was big on the Outsiders for sure
Right? Yeah.
and everything. And I have not done an Outsiders show. I've talked about it before. I've brought it up like we did just now and just in conversation, but I've never really done a whole show. That's going to be an upcoming thing that I want to do with that.
Right.
I'm taking my time with it. I'm trying to work on certain ways of doing things now. If I can get certain people to come on here and talk about them that have ties to it in some way, that's great. If I can't, I'll work somebody else in eventually to it. But the Outsiders is one of the tops on my list from '80s movies, along with I've got to get Big Trouble in Little China in there. I keep talking about that, and I keep talking The Last Starfighter. Now, I would really love to get the guy that played Alex Rogan in Last Starfighter because I've already had Catherine Mary Stewart on. And I don't know if I can get her to come on a second time or not. She may agree to come on a second time, just focus on Last Starfighter. I don't know. Right. I could always ask and see, but I mean, who knows?
That would be fun.
I mean, you came on a second time. You might come on a third, fourth, and fifth where it's over with. We don't know. I mean, because you're only 26 right now. If I get you next year, you'll be 27. The year after that, you'll be 28.
Yeah.
You're plenty young and can afford to get up early and come on here and.
Yeah,
it's all great.
And if you keep paying me in pizza, Chris, I'll just keep coming. That's just how that works.
You're not supposed to tell that because everybody will want pizza now.
Right.
Lord. All right. Well, I guess we better go ahead and wrap things up. We're reaching the minute mark here for sure. Hour and 4, actually, if we want to get down to it. And I take that back. We're not at an hour and 4. I started at 5 minutes before we started talking. So we're at the hour mark of talking right now on the show. I know. Couple of young people just talking movies.
That's it.
That's what I'm talking about. But just go ahead, if you will, give us your final thoughts on Fast Time at Ridgemont High.
Well, I enjoyed rewatching it, and like we were talking about, it's a different outlook on it. Watching it all these years later, you have a different reaction when you watch it back then and now. But then again, I just get a huge kick out of all those actors and actresses being so young and looking back. And so I had aside from just the movie itself, which a lot of things really aren't as funny anymore or don't make as big of an impact as they did when I was, 19 when it came out, or 20 or something like that. And, but just the nostalgia of it for me is great. And like I said, seeing, remembering all these actors and actresses that were in it that, went on to do so many great things. And I think it'll always be the quintessential coming of age movie. And I think it kind of stands the test of time in that way. So it's still one of my favorite. And when you think of the 80s, that's one of the movies you think of, Fast Times. And being from California, being a Valley girl and having it shot here and, in some of the locations, that is always held a special place in my heart too. So
I imagine so. I mean, it's right down the road from me. You could have been in it for all we know. You could have been extra. I mean,
right around the corner.
Right around the corner.
Yeah.
Well, whenever you're signing, going, hey, look at me, look at me.
Right.
So, well, I totally agree with you on the whole nostalgia part. I mean, I'm all about the nostalgia. I love it. I mean, I love just reminiscing and talking about older movies, which is why we do something like this with Fast Times and all the others I mentioned that I'd like to do. It's a very fun thing to do, and putting together the things that I didn't quite catch over the years as references to Fast. So, like I said earlier about Mr. Hand, when I first realized remembered his name was Mr. Hand, and I started thinking Mr. Hand, and I think South Park. I just died laughing because I was like, they're spoofing it. That's Mr. Hand is the bad teacher. And the other one's supposed to be the good teacher. He's two personalities or whatever, I guess, But so the little shout outs back to the movie like that are great, and seeing the the fact that you had such a lot of people, so many people on there want to do so much good stuff in other movies. You can look back at it when you're watching Top Gun with a buddy and go, hey, do you know that was one of the stoners in Fast Time at Ridgemont High? They're like, no, I wasn't. You're like, trivia night's my night. You're paying up. Just little things like that. It's always fun to see these things. So that's my enjoyment with it. I think it wasn't quite as funny, like I said, as it was, but you get a different appreciation for it as an adult than you do as a kid.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. So Lori, thank you one more time for coming on the show here and just sitting here and talking with me for an hour, keeping me occupied, talking about some Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Great fun movie to look back at and everything. I'm glad you had some time to come on.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. It was my absolute pleasure. I said pressure. You pressured me.
It was absolute pressure to not let them think I'm this old.
Stress is so great. No, it was a pleasure. It's always fun hanging out with you, and I'll come back anytime.
All right, well that's good then. Enjoy your weekend. I think you got some plans tonight. You're going to have fun with that. And anybody out there that wants to follow you, I believe you're only doing Instagram, right? For the most part.
Yeah, basically Instagram is Lori Tucker, but it's Tucker_Lori, and Lori Tucker on Facebook. And not on Facebook much, but I have all my stories transfer over there. So
yeah, the good thing is Instagram does carry over to Facebook. So if you post on there, it's going to show up on Facebook. That's what I found out. That's why I stopped doing both of them. I just push it; it pushes through on it. Yeah. Which is great. So you get your community on both sides for it. Yeah. Speaking of communities, I get this great retro community out there that I hope is following me every week. And the show is getting more popular as we go, which is I'm very happy to see that. Slow, steady growth is what it's about. When you grow slow like that, people tend to remember you more, it feels like. So you can find us on Instagram as well at Retro Life for You. My stuff transfers over also to Facebook. I do some things on TikTok as far as little video clips I may put on there sometimes that are age-related video clips. I don't do it as often as I should. Time is a factor, it feels like, and so much of a factor I just don't have. But I do it when I can. But you can always find me on Instagram. And if you want to email the show here, retrolifeforyou@gmail.com. You can email me here or DM me on Instagram, and I do return messages. Any emails or messages, and I will get back with you on it. It may not be 30 minutes later. It could be a couple of days, but I will get back with you on it. I do promise you that. Thank you for watching the show and listening and everything and being a part of the Retro Life for You community podcast we have. And
I thought there was a glitch for a second there.
And did I mention I'm 49 and can't remember things at times anymore? Did I mention that? Did I? There'll be an editing going on later, I'm sure, with this. No doubt. No doubt. Anyway, and I look forward to seeing you guys again next week. So, Lori, once again, thanks for being here. I will talk to you later.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll see you guys next week.